Jeff Chang, this isn't just any birthday, okay? This is your 21st birthday.
Here we go.
This is the day that you become a man. In the United States of America, bald eagles and Budweiser, you go out and drink. If we were in Africa, you would have to leave the village and not come back till you killed a bear.
None of that is true.
There's no bears in Africa?
No.
Really?
You have to read a book.
The portrayal of Asians in American film and television has come a long way. Unlike when I was younger, I now often see Asian characters speaking without thick accents, sometimes in leading roles, and with jobs other than Japanese businessman, martial arts expert, or the owner of a dry cleaners or restaurant. But something you might not understand if you've never been a minority is how your gut instinctively tightens when you see a member of your race in an ad for a TV show or movie, and your brain automatically does a frame-by-frame analysis, searching for signs of stereotyping. And that's exactly what I did when I saw the trailer for 21 and Over, a teen comedy from the writers of The Hangover about an Asian American college student and the trouble his two friends get him into on his 21st birthday. Now, my brain doesn't do this analysis out of a desire to be the PC police, but out of a sense of self-preservation. I want to see whether this thing is going to help me or potentially hinder me by perpetuating a harmful or demeaning stereotype. No matter how confident you are in your identity and worth, it's never fun to be reminded of how little someone thinks of you, or that it's still acceptable to demonize or ridicule various racial groups if it elicits the desired reaction. In 21 and Over, Miles Teller and Skylar Astin play Miller and Casey, childhood friends who decide to surprise their friend Jeff Chang, played by Justin Chon, at his college for his 21st birthday, not knowing that Jeff has an important medical school interview the next morning set up by his stern and terrifying father, played by Francois Chow. But Miller talks Jeff into getting a drink, which turns into more, and eventually launches a one-night adventure as the immature, sex-crazed Miller and the straight-laced Casey attempt to get Jeff sobered up and back home before his interview, avoiding obstacles like the police, a gauntlet of drinking games, some bullying male cheerleaders, and a sorority of angry Latinas, while Casey tries to fan a romantic spark between him and one of Jeff's classmates, played by Sarah Wright, while Casey and Miller grapple with how much the three friends have drifted apart. As is customary in this type of R-rated film, there's plenty of bare flesh, some gay panic, and lots of bad behavior. Before seeing 21 and Over, there were a few things that put me on stereotype alert. First, the film's plot seemed to be a lot like the 80s comedy Weekend at Bernie's, but with two white guys babysitting an Asian instead of a corpse. There was the characterization of Jeff as a straight-A student parented by a cold-hearted, education-obsessed disciplinarian consistent with Asian stereotypes. There's the director's involvement with The Hangover, which featured Ken Jeong as a swishy crime boss, potentially insulting to both Asians and gay people. And if you go further back, there's a sad history of Asians relegated to comic relief stereotypes in teen comedies, the worst example being Geddy Watanabe as the infamous sex-crazed exchange student Long Duck Dong in 1984's 16 Candles. But fortunately, the makers of 21 and Over seem to know its largely post-racial audience better than that. Jeff is only incidentally Asian, in that his character could have been played by an actor of any race, though Jeff gets in a good culturally specific dig when Casey and Miller try to convince him to rebel against his father. And the fact that Jeff is such a fun, hard-partying guy who's having difficulty coping with the pressure of his father's high expectations actually defies Asian stereotypes while highlighting something many US-born Asian Americans struggle with. 21 and Over is a movie I expected to hate on many levels, but with its modest goals and solid execution, it manages to overachieve with some funny, quick-fire dialogue, winning performances from its leads, a relatively plausible one crazy night story, and some surprisingly heartfelt grappling over what it means to become an adult. 21 and Over isn't high art, but it delivers, and I can't help but feel heartened that it seems to recognize that young audiences today would rather see racial stereotypes skewered instead of perpetuated. I'm Jonathan Kim, and this is a ReThink Review.